Hello and welcome along to the Panto podcast. This week my guest is funny lady Dee Quemby. She tells me all about life in the theatrical Midlands, working with a certain Billy Breen, and the issue of casting of older women in the acting profession. Also in this episode we talk about several photographs of which you can see on the YouTube version of this episode. So just go to YouTube and search the Panto podcast and you'll find it there. So in the meantime, please sit back and enjoy the latest Panto podcast. My guest for today's Panto podcast is Dee Quemby.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, and that was we've just been chatting away about comedy and everything else, and you're a very funny lady.
Oh, do you think?
I've seen you on stage before, and I've seen you perform, and you make people smile. Were you always funny when you were little?
I think I was always an individual, a one-off. Yeah, probably.
How did you then sort of start treading the boards?
Well, I don't come from a theatrical family, and of course the time when I was born, which was in the 40s, I mean, if you'd have said to your parents as you were growing up you wanted to be an actress or go on the stage, they'd have been horrified. It wasn't the thing that girls did, especially in a little village in Leicestershire. So, I was dancing at 18 months, did my first panto at 2. So I grew up with that as well, doing pantomimes, and I loved all the old comics, and we had all the old radio shows on and all the old comedies on the BBC, little 9-inch black and white television. And I just loved it, just absolutely loved it. And, probably a little girl would say, I want to be the heroine in a film. No, I wanted to be making people laugh and dressing up. and of course you had cinemas in all the villages then. I mean, people won't believe that little villages had their own cinema. But you'd go Saturday morning, and I grew up with Margaret Rutherford, Marjorie Main. Do you remember Ma and Pa Kettle?
Yes. Pa
Kettle? I used to love her. Peggy Mount.
Oh, another character.
Kathleen Harrison, Thora Hird, Esme Cannon. I grew up watching Margaret Rutherford. Loved Margaret Rutherford. And I used to sit there thinking, I want to be that funny old lady. I don't want to be the heroine, the romantic lead. I want to be that funny old lady. Well, I am old now and hopefully funny, so hopefully I'm going to do that.
Somebody you didn't mention there was Irene Handel.
Oh, yeah, I did meet Irene Handel. Yes, she was lovely. Away with the fairies, but she was lovely. She was fun. When I did Up Knox, she was there with Wilfred Pickles for the Love of Ada. And they were talking to me. They were fabulous. Wilfred Pickles and Irene Handel, fabulous. I'd love to see a show like that on television now. Something, because, they are being repeated, and the film was repeated. And they're just so funny. And you identify with it because you think, yeah, that's how my grandma was, or that's how my Auntie June was, or the lady down the road was like. You identify with it.
And 2 years old in Panto.
Yeah.
How did that even become a thing?
Well, everybody in those days sent the children. If you were a girl, you went to dancing lessons. If you were a boy, you went to football. Boys didn't dance, girls didn't play football. That was it. It was a real divide. I couldn't have said I want to play football. They'd have been horrified. And a little boy wanting to dance, parents would have been horrified. So all dancing schools were full of little girls with ballet shoes and tap shoes, and I had ringlets, and all the schools that were quite big, and we did have 2 or 3 big dancing schools in Loughborough, they'd want to put a show on. And they put all the kids in it because what does it do? It gets people in, doesn't it? Sells tickets. So every child would be in the pantomime. But they used to go around the clubs and they'd ask local performers, because in those days a lot of them were local, to take the parts. So you got a real professional pantomime. When I look at the photos from the 40s and 50s, the scenery was fabulous. The costumes were fabulous. We had orchestra. And the costumes for the children, absolutely beautiful. You're talking like 4 years after the war, Second World War. I had costumes that were thick velvet, sequins, satin, feathers. And my mum had to pay somebody to make them because she couldn't sew. Most mothers could sew because they had to in those days, but my mother couldn't, and neither can I. But, where did they get the money from as well? But I went at 18 months, and the first pantomime was just shortly after I turned 2, and it was Dick Whittington on Loughborough Town Hall stage. And I loved Dick Whittington ever since. I was in the Sunbeams. They used to give the troops names like the Sunbeams. There was a troupe called the Lovelies. I don't think I ever got in the Lovelies. I was in the Sunbeams though, yeah.
And after that then, that sort of...
Well, what happened was, I'd never thought about doing comedy. I'd always wanted to be a character actress. Like the mother-in-law or the funny neighbour next door. Always wanted to do that. No idea how to do it. And the dancing school I was at, I was about 18. And we all worked at the local firm, Herbert Morris in Loughborough. And the company asked Jo Neal, who worked there, it was her school, would she put a pantomime on? And they would give her money towards it. And would she use the apprentices? So she said yes, and the first one was Cinderella. And of course, you've got the young lads involved because there were young girls involved, And because I worked there, I auditioned for Cinderella because I didn't really know what else to audition for. And I got the part. So that's early 60s. And I mean, when I look at the costumes, we had 2 real ponies. 2 real Shetland ponies, because this was a lot of farm country around here. So anybody is, I've got 2 ponies you can have, And it was the dad of one of the girls, and they brought the ponies. Now the thing was, these apprentices, we were all dedicated because we were at the dancing school and we knew we had to do everything how you were told. Thomas Kell, whose ponies there were, said, he must have said something to the children that the apprentices overheard. Whatever you do, don't give the ponies chocolate. It gives them the runs. So every night when I got in the coach, and that's the end of your first half, and the curtains come very slow because you want them to see those ponies as much as you can, Some of the apprentices had obviously dosed them up with chocolate, and every night they performed on cue, and I'm wafting my fan faster and faster and faster. And Tommy goes, who gave the ponies chocolate? But we did another one for the apprentices, and then Jo decided that she'd like to do them on her own. And that was, when we did them on our own, we didn't have any men. That was the hardest thing in those days, to get men interested in taking a part, doing a waltz with something. They just didn't want to do it. And we did manage to get somebody to play Buttons the second time we did Cinderella, but he dropped out the night before, and the only person who knew the script was his wife, who'd helped him with it, and she actually danced. So she took the part, and I thought, whoa, a girl taking Buttons, that's incredible. And she didn't want to do any more. So the next panto, I think, was Aladdin, and I said, could I audition for Wishy Washy? And said, well, go on then. And I got it. Now, this is where I started with comedy. Loughborough Town Hall, it was, there were a lot of alterations needed doing. It was very old, and the wiring was very old and everything. And we'd got a full audience, because in those days you would pack it out with everybody. If you're at a dancing school now, you mainly just get parents and friends. But the whole town would come. Everybody would know who you were. It was that sort of time when variety was up there, millions of people went to the cinema and everything. And we had this blackout. And we stood on the stage, can't see each other, can't see the audience, they can't see each other. And I just said to this girl, we've got to do something. I said, go and find a torch. And she came back with this massive torch. She said, the electricians are trying to find out what's wrong. Anyway, I said, down to the front, and I stood in front of that audience. She put that torch on me. I just told a load of stupid jokes, and they loved it. And that's when I thought, I have got to have a go at this. And I do not know how I was ever brave enough to do it. But I did it. And I think the more people told me, you can't do it, and a woman's not funny, and that dug my heels in. Even my husband said, I don't like women comics. I don't think you'll last, he said. I did it for 28 years and got on television.
How did that come about then? Because there's only ever been 2 women on that TV series, The Comedians.
Yes. And I think, when did I do Up Knox? I mean, when I did Up Knox, I was only doing the pantomimes. I wasn't working. And you had to send a postcard up. Can you imagine? And I got this letter back saying, oh, your audition's at Nottingham at like 3:00. And I thought, well, that'll be okay. I'll just go in this little room and, this, that and the other. And when I got there, it was absolutely packed, and there'd be about 50 people with 3:00 because they said, well, most that put in have never done anything. They won't turn up, or people will bottle out at the last minute, or they'll be ill, or they won't be able to get ill, there'll be some reason. And there was a massive stage, and they all sat at the front. Royston Mayo, yes. And Alice Marks, I've got to think what her name is. She was a sister of the ballerina, and she was on the panel. It'll come to me. And I had to walk all the way down, and everybody's looking at me. There were groups all round. And previous to that, there'd been club comics getting up, with a cigar in their hand. They'd say something and they'd go, next. I thought, well, I'll only say 2 words and they'll say next, I walked all the way down and I was absolutely petrified. I'd got a safari costume on because I'd just done Robinson Crusoe. I was the silly Billy Crusoe. And I got a sequin costume on and I got tap shoes. And I got on that stage and I did a whole routine and they never stopped me. And then I tap danced and they went, oh, come down here. And they said, oh, we've never seen a woman comic before. We loved it. Go and have a rest. Come 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Come back and do it all again so we can record it. It was one of those old tape recorders. They didn't have cameras or anything. That big old reel-to-reel thing. And of course, I'm walking back and everybody hates me because they think I'm in with a chance. So I got down there and I did that. And I did get on. But I didn't do anything for a few years. But then I did try talent shows and met Bob Monkhouse, who sent me a script. Bernard Manning, who said, you keep doing this, it's changed to have a woman doing it. And then I did a talent show at Leamington Spa, and they recorded my spot, which I could have for £15. I remember that, because I was going to my husband, have you got £15 on you? Because you don't go. It was a lot of money, then. And I got the tape, the VHS tape. Can you imagine? And then the next day, my agent who'd been there said, I've had a call. It's for television. Have you got a tape or anything? I said, I've only got the tape of last night at the talent show at Leamington Spa. Oh, you won't get it with that. But you'll have to send it if you haven't got anything else. Well, who do I send it to? Granada TV. Okay, so I sent it. And then about 2 days later, I think it was a Friday, and sort of like 8:00 Monday morning, he was ringing me and he said, you've got it, you're doing the comedians this week. They're desperate for another woman because they've got one woman, but they couldn't find anybody else. They'd been to see a couple of women, but they were too blue. They'd been to see him in the clubs up north, And of course, talent show, it was a family show, so that's how I got the comedians.
Going back to Wishy Washy.
Yes.
There's been principal boys played by girls over many years.
Yeah.
But to play Wishy Washy, was that quite tricky for you?
No, because I don't think it was, because people knew you in a small town because the dancing school, I mean, we had about 300 pupils. So everybody knew you. You'd go, oh, my granddaughter comes to you, oh, I'm auntie to so-and-so, we've seen you in the show, So when I found it better than playing Cinderella, to be honest. I never wanted to be Cinderella ever again.
And did you do all the business?
Yes.
All the silliness?
Went through the mangle.
Good.
Oh, yes. More than once, yes. Yes. But we did have quite a few well-known people, actually, at the dancing school Pantos. When I was about 5, I think, the dancing school got taken over. And she wanted to, I can't remember which school it was now, because they all had fancy names. She wanted to create a real impression. she'd bought the school and she'd come from somewhere else. And there was a young comic that she'd seen in the clubs. And he dressed up as a woman in the first half, and in the second half he came out as himself. And people didn't realise it was the same person. They thought they'd got 2 acts. And she asked him if he'd play Dame. And he said yes. And he wouldn't wear wigs. He grew his own hair into a bob. And he had all the outfits of the day.
Goodness me, and you're showing me a photo at the moment.
Of Billy Breen, who went on to be Larry
The lovely
Grayson.
Larry, yeah.
Yeah.
Goodness
there.
me.
And there's me when I was dancing. I'd be 6 there, so I was 6 when he was there. And he did quite a few pantos. He just refused to wear the dame costumes at the time. He said, no, I want the fashion of the day, which is very 40s, as you can see from...
What was he like then?
I vaguely remember him, but I did meet him several times years later, and he was lovely. He said, "Oh, I love the shows. I love talking to the kids." But it was very new in the clubs, you know, and he wasn't a star. And then when I was, I can't remember how old I was here. This is the 60s. We did Cinderella, and of course the casts were colossal in those days. You always had the bailiffs men, which you don't get now. I really miss the bailiffs men that end up with the ugly sisters, because you know that's the sort of thing Cannonball would have done, and other double acts at the time. But this was one that we did after we'd done the one for the firm, and Joan was struggling to get men, and we'd used a printer before, a young man, and he said, "Are there any parts?" And she said, "Yeah." She said, "If you can bring somebody else, you can be the bailiff's men. My brother will do it." Well, he brought his brother, who obviously didn't want to do it, stood with his hands in front of him, with his head down, and he went on to become Roy Cropper.
Goodness me.
David Wilson.
Goodness me.
And I couldn't find some of the photos, but you can see where he's standing there is very Roy, right from that age. And he did not want to do it. He absolutely hated it. That's his brother. Sorry, we're looking at photos in case you're wondering what we're doing.
We'll take a couple of copies of them.
Yeah, I do have one where
we'll put
it's
them on
on
the
with...
YouTube. If you're listening on iTunes or Spotify or anything.
There we go, Roy Cropper.
Roy Cropper,
there you go, isn't it? At 17, he was Roy Cropper.
Goodness me. And I'm just looking as well, the microphones on stands.
Well, that was it. That was a professional venue. But you had to have microphones on stands because they didn't have the equipment they've got now. That's why when the lights went out, it was every man for himself. But then, of course, one pupil that we had at the dancing school who is very famous, is the West End and Broadway choreographer and director Stephen Mear. He was a little boy in our pantos. So...
You get quite proud of that, aren't you?
I am. Well, you know, how many teachers can say that a former pupil got the CBE for services to dance last year? I mean, I've said to him, Stephen, you could have had lots of better dance teachers, but you never have so much fun as we did.
How did you settle down people then? You know, who were nervous to pantomimes?
I just think we just got on with it.
Because your personalities, you've got a big personality. You're fun.
Ooh.
And and there's a bit of daftness to it, which you don't always get. There's, you know, it could be quite a fearful thing going into, you know, this dance teacher, this strict.
Well,
you hear these stories.
I was not very confident at all, and I mean most comedians do have sort of problems and tragic life stories, don't they? I mean, you know, not all of them.
As well.
But I think I was an only one. My brother died, and my mum was ill, so we moved in with my grandparents who had a pub. So I'd sit there watching a little 9-inch black and white television, because my mum and dad had to work in the pub. I mean, the pubs were packed out in those days, even though they worked in the day. So I was often just sat there with that little 9-inch television, and I loved all the Brian Rix farces, everything. And I remember watching a film with Gloria Graham in, the one where Lee Marvin throws coffee in her face, and Big Heat. Is it Glenn Ford?
So,
yeah. And I thought she was the most beautiful, fabulous thing I'd ever seen, Gloria Graham. And I thought, that's it. I'm going to be a film star, and I'm going to be Deirdre Graham. I think that was at 6.
And look at all the work you've done though over the years.
And got nowhere.
What do you mean, got nowhere?
Well, I'm still trying to work. It's very hard as you get older. Well, it's very hard once you get past 40 for a woman, really, isn't it? But I'm a Capricorn, so I dig my heels in, you know. If people say you can't do it or you're told to do it, I say, no, I'm not. Even if I'm not confident about it, I'll give it a go. And I mean, 2 years ago at 73, I took up boxing and jiu-jitsu.
Did you?
I did, because I'm supposed to be doing an action film. They keep putting it off, but I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do what I can myself.
An action film. I mean, the coffee's lovely. I'm not going to argue about that. There we go. Your kung fu kicked me on.
No, I can't be doing with told you shouldn't do things or. And I mean, you know, to come from a generation where women didn't do things, they just didn't do them. You know, my generation, you were supposed to be engaged at 19, married at 20, baby at 21, stay at home, and that was it. But I was determined I was going to do something. I didn't know how to do it. I probably took a long way around it, but there's no such thing as going to uni and learning. You know, you just had to get on a stage and do it yourself. You know, and I mean, I sometimes when I think about it, and I think of all the working men's clubs and all the social clubs and all the other things I did, I thought, how did I walk out on that stage? I just don't know how I did it, but I made myself do it.
And the confidence just...
Well, I don't think you're ever confident because you never know how it's going to go with comedy. It's not like if you've got an amazing voice and you go out and sing, you know, and comedy is... It's very, they either like you or they don't. There's no in between. And they don't shout out, oh, tell us another joke with her, you know, like what they say, sing us a song with her, you know. Everything's got to be different. And I used to write down everything I did, wherever I'd gone, what I'd worn. So if I went back, I never did the same. I never wore the same outfit, you know. I think you've got to be dedicated. You've got to be in. It was 100%. I've got to do it, everything to the book. You know, and that's how it's always been. When I had a touring panto, I had a 40s night company, I had a musical company, I've done children's entertaining. I was a Punch and Judy professor. My husband said, "You'll never do it. You're too clumsy." Oh, I was inundated with bookings. I even put Margaret Thatcher in because we used to do Margaret Thatcher impression. Well, she came to see Punch in prison, you see. And everybody in Leicester would cheer and everybody in Nottingham would boo.
Again, though, this longing, this urging to make people smile and laugh.
Yeah. Why would you want to make them to be anything else?
You'd be amazed with some people.
Oh, no.
I'm sure you wouldn't be, actually.
No, probably not.
I'm looking here as well at one of the other photographs in your extensive collection, which is this famous, was it for the Times, I believe, or it was Observer or something?
It was something to do with morning television, and they asked if you were a panto dame, I think to send you I can't remember, but I'd got my touring panto company then, which ran for 28 years. I mean, we had such a following.
What's it called, by the way?
My touring DQ touring panto.
DQ touring.
Yeah. I mean, we did everything. We did social clubs, theatres. We did a hotel chain there as part of their Christmas package, and I even did a gay club. And I took it. It was a full company. We had massive scenery. We had loads of costumes. I mean, my costumes would fill a van anyway. We didn't skimp on anything. And I had children from the dancing school. I had teenagers from the dancing school. So we had troops of dancers, and they were all licensed. I had to send all the venues up to the licensing authority. And a gay club in Leicester said, because I'd been there working as a comic. Oh, you've got a touring Panto company. Would you come and do a Panto? And it was Aladdin. And I said, okay. And I said to the mums, I have one booking that the children cannot go to. Why not? Well, it's a gay club. They're going. We want to go. And they are all grown up now with teenagers of their own, and they'll say to me, oh, we loved it, especially when we went to the gay club. Yes,
so where are you then in this photo?
I'm there with my eyes closed.
That's you there with your eyes closed.
And there's Christopher Biggins, and there's Rusty Lee. And I mean, everybody was fabulous. They were all great. And that was beautiful, that hotel. That staircase was amazing. Apparently, I can't even remember which hotel it was, but apparently it's been used in a lot of films because it's so beautiful.
How's it been then to be a dame?
I loved it. I didn't know whether people would accept it, but I was working with drag queens at the time. And I remember going to somewhere and this old man said, are you a man or a woman? And then I did somewhere else and this girl was on the phone. She said, oh, we've got a great drag queen. I said, I'm not a drag queen, you know. So I thought, well, if that's, I can do dame.
But did it feel weird though?
No, not at all. I felt like I was Peggy Mount. She would have been a fabulous drag queen. Dame, sorry. She would have been amazing. I saw her as fairy queen at Leicester, and she was older. She was at the end of her career, and she had this massive dress on, and she came out with great big boots on. I thought, yeah, that's how I'd do it,
Could you see yourself as an ugly sister?
I played ugly sister.
Have you?
I have, for Anne Oliver, yes, and she did ask me. I'd just done Wicked Queen at Leicester professional pantomime. And I was on Radio Leicester, and she actually rang the station up and said, would you play one of the Ugly Sisters? I said, I'd love to, Anne, but it didn't. It fell through because of money and other things, and it just stopped, which is a shame. Oh, I'd love to be Ugly Sister. I would.
Because you've got to be a special sort of performer to play Wicked as well, haven't you? With that.
No, it's bitchy. It's bitchy.
Did it come easy to you then?
Oh, that's so easy. Of course. But when you've worked with drag queens, it's so easy to.
Oh, I know a few of them. Yes.
Yeah.
But like here, Queen Morgana.
Yeah.
Being the Wicked Queen in Snow White.
Yeah, that was good. I enjoyed it. Yeah, really enjoyed it. Those costumes were so heavy I could hardly move. and got 6 boys that had to pick him up in this routine. And every night they'd get down and they'd go. The costume was so heavy. Honestly, it was. Oh, and I'm not very tall, so you can imagine. Oh, it was yeah. I'd like lighter costumes if I ever did it again, please. Yeah.
And you've worked with so many lovely people. You mentioned earlier on Larry Grace.
Yeah.
Any other particular favourites over the years?
Well, I did do Last of the Summer Wine, and they were fabulous. Brian Murphy came up the first day. He says, hello, I'm Brian Murphy. And I thought, yes, I know you are, I love you. And just pulled up a chair and sat next to me. It was lovely. And on Emmerdale, Zach and Lisa were fabulous. And Marlon, they were. I never met Mandy. I was playing her auntie, and she was away a while, I think for 2 weeks, and I was only in as a guest. I was hoping it would be permanent, but I mean, really, I was in leopard skin. I was on the gin. I was getting messages through my heated rollers, and they've gone more dramatic now. The Dingles, haven't they? And I miss that.
That's what's needed, I think, in a lot of comedies. That's why Corrie, I think, still is going strong.
Yeah.
Emmerdale's okay.
Yeah.
EastEnders, sorry, anybody listening, but it's too bleak.
Well, I would have loved to have been in EastEnders, and you can only be in EastEnders if you're a Londoner. That's how they like it. And they did, I don't know, the BBC did this big talent trail thing, and they came to Leicester, and there were all sorts of different people. I recognised one of the big casting directors, and then there were other people doing the auditions, and I did get called in for EastEnders. and it was to play a stripper. At the time, they said, "Oh, you don't look old enough," and I said, "Well, I've brought it. I'd got what's the stripper music, and I'd got a cassette, and I'd taken a feather boa, and they said." Oh no, it's not. But do it anyway. And they did film it, and they were laughing their heads off. So I don't know what's happened to that.
If it's out there, anybody.
Yeah. Da 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 da. I don't do things by heart. If I'm going to do something, you do it, don't you?
And you've never been frightened to sort of send yourself up either?
Oh, I don't mind sending myself up. I'd sooner do that than try and be, like the ultra glamorous person. I think, oh, there's probably a mark on my nose or some, I'd sooner send myself up and be funny.
Do you know who that reminds me of? Marty Kane.
Really? Is that what she's?
That's what she used to kind of do. She didn't mind sending herself up.
No, you custard pie, and I've had the lot. Through the man, got everything.
Could you see yourself still doing it now?
Panto? Yeah, I'd like to do it, but the thing is, when you see the auditions, it's like fairy godmother, 18 to 25, and I'm thinking that's not a fairy godmother, that's a fairy goddaughter. They don't. I don't know whether it's insurance or they're worried about your health or whatever. I don't know, but the opportunities are not there for older people and especially older women. It's the same with anything, television, film. The older women, how many do you see apart from the ones that you always see? And there's a lot of older actresses out there still trying to do things. And
they're very good.
Yeah, I just don't know what it is. I mean, it's always been that for women though, hasn't it? You've got to be young, you've got to be glamorous, Always in... I think there was probably more opportunities when I was a child because you had your Peggy Mount parts, your Margaret Rutherford parts. I don't think they see old ladies as funny and eccentric and lovable or interesting anymore, really.
Because you came into Last of the Summer Wine on the last series,
wasn't it? Yes, that was such a shame because I would have been in it permanently. Yeah.
But even that, the Nora Batties,
Where are they? They are still around. If you live up north or you live in a village, there are still people like that. Your grandma can be hilarious, and but I just don't know. I don't know whether it's the people who are running these things who are younger, probably. I just don't know. I don't know.
Who makes you laugh now then?
Now, not much that's new. Though I would say I just taped one episode of We Are Lady Parts, and I thought I'm going to hate this, and I really enjoyed it. It was different and it was funny. What makes me laugh at the minute? Mainly old films, really. Talking Pictures is a godsend. I should think that's probably one of the most watched channels in houses because who watches television? Older people. Reruns of Last of the Summer Wine. Dad's Army is amazing. I can watch that over and over again. And people do watch it. I mean, it's still on, isn't it? I don't really know what makes me laugh these days. I never liked Alan Carr on the television, but I love him now. I went to the comedy festival at Leicester, and it was Roseanne Barr when she came to the Demont. I mean, she was huge because of the sitcom she was in, and he came out as the warm up, and everybody went, "Oh, it's that bloke off the telly," and he was fabulous. But he talked about working in Tesco's and he didn't do any put down stuff, and having political stuff or anything. It was just like comedy from years ago. I mean, I don't want to offend him by saying that, but it was something that people identified with, things that they did, and he was hilarious. And unfortunately, Roseanne Barr went down like a dead duck after that. He was fabulous. Yeah, and I did see her on the Graham Norton show, and he said, "You've just been to Leicester," and she was very rude about Leicester, but she did come out with tap shoes on and a leotard, which is not the best look for Roseanne Barr. Even that wasn't funny, But I do like Alan Carr. I like Graham Norton. I think he's very good. presenter, because he doesn't act anymore, does he? Of course, Paul O'Grady, lovely Paul O'Grady. I think he's fabulous. Wish he'd do a bit more on television.
Have you ever thought about writing?
I have written. I wrote when we were putting the pantomimes on at the dancing school. The scripts were so old fashioned. Oh God, they were like Victorian scripts. And Joan said to me, "Could you write Cinderella or Aladdin, whatever?" And I did. And because my birthday is in January, so my grandmother always took me and one friend to see the pantos in Leicester, right from being about 4. So I loved Panto, traditional Panto. So I could write a traditional pantomime. I wrote them for ages, and then I wrote everyone for my own company. I wrote comedy sketches. I did write a book about, 13 years ago. But it takes too long. It takes too much out of me. I did write a first episode of a sitcom, and there was in the Sun, Gary Bushell, who I met, and he did promote me a lot. He did like me. He came to see me doing comedy and everything, and I did. He had something where he said the sitcoms weren't funny anymore. This is a long while ago, not recently. And had anybody got any ideas? Could they send them up? And I got this idea, and it was set in Nottingham, and I got all the characters down. I'd got plot lines, and I think I wrote the first episode. And out of 3,000, mine was one of the 6 that got given to, I can't remember his name, Nigel Lithgow.
Yes.
And then he went off to America, I think, to do Pop Idol, and we never heard any more.
How things could have been different. Right?
Yeah, and I did send one up that we did write a play, but the BBC didn't like it. But everything's got to be so sanitised now.
What was the sitcom then? Can you sort of tell me?
I did copy. Well, it was just that.
The premise.
Well, it was set in the Clubland time, and he was a plumber who liked Elvis. And he had 2 guitars on his top of his van. And he did go round singing and trying to do comedy, but he didn't do much because it was always paid off. So he never got very far. And there was always an empty Babycham glass. Somebody was following around who liked him. And he'd got a wife who worked in a supermarket. And it was, yeah. And I can't remember what the kids, I think Lennon was the boy because of Beatles and all that, And, yeah, it could have gone actually. And at that time we had the Carlton Studios in Nottingham. I did loads of stuff at the Carlton Studios, but the Midlands is very ignored. It's always the north and the south, isn't it? Like we're going to do more drama outside of London. Well, they're going to do another series up north. Are they doing anything in the Midlands? And when they did I can't remember who did it. The last version of Adrian Mole. They changed it from Leicester and made it Birmingham. What an insult to Sue Townsend and Leicester. Why don't we have more things here? We're in the middle. It's an hour, 8 minutes on a fast train to London. There's airports. There should be more here in the Midlands.
The theatres in the Midlands. You've got your fair share though, haven't you?
Curve, yeah. This area, you have more amateur dramatic societies and dancing schools than anywhere else. There's loads of them in this area. It's I don't know. Do people flock to the theatre here? Well, I think Loughborough Town Hall, which is now the Charnwood Theatre, gets good audiences, and of course the Curve. A lot of things start there. Sunset Boulevard started there, and when we had the Haymarket, Me and My Girl started there with Robert Lindsay. Why don't we have more here? And we need more people filming here, and more people who want to film here. It's when you look at where things are being filmed, it's always London or Birmingham or Manchester. Come on, there's a lot of people here who do things. Why don't they write a soap and set it in the Midlands? I mean, they used to film Crossroads at Nottingham. So really, that was a Midlands soap, really, wasn't it?
What a show that was.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, they did try to redo it, but you can't redo anything like that. I mean, we used to rush home from school and, bolt your dinner down and sit down. Loved it, didn't we? Yeah, loved it. Yeah.
And even then, Larry made an appearance in that.
Oh,
didn't he?
yes, yeah. Oh, it was lovely. Yeah. You see, I haven't got people like that anymore, have we?
No. Your book then that you wrote a few years ago.
Uh-huh.
Is it still in print?
I think you probably get a cheap copy on eBay. It was just that, well, how this came about, I didn't want to write a book. I never wanted to write a book, but I'd gone down to do, a workshop with a casting director, and she didn't have many people there. I don't know what had happened, or whether they couldn't get there or what. And we were just talking, and she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I've got a tour in Panto." And she says, "Have any funny things happened?" And I said, "Oh, I've got loads of funny stories about the Panto, especially with the kids and, and setting it up and having to build things and working in clubland." And I told her a few, and she said, "You must really write those down." So I wrote those down. I've got those. And then my mum died, and somebody local who was a reporter got in touch, sent a letter which I never read. And then about 2 years later, I read it, and he said, I'm writing books about local people, if you'd like me to do one about you. And he came to see me, and he sent me the draft, and I thought, who is this person I'm reading? It wasn't me at all. And he'd put silly jokes in, which I would never have used, because I was called an observational comic on a write-up in the stage. But things happened to me, and he used to talk about them, and people used to find it funny. You stick jokes in as well, but if people believe what you're telling them, it's even funnier, I think. It's like Steptoe. You could actually believe they were there. They were living in that house, couldn't you? Dad's Army, you can actually believe that's how. And it was written based on their experiences. So I'd got all that, and I said to him, "Look, let me write it and you edit it." But it took a long while out of my life, and there are a couple of mistakes, but I just put, and then I did a chapter on working with drag queens and everything. It's not really a biography. It's not that at all. I was thinking of calling it "How Did I Get Into This?" But in the end I called it "I'm Ready for My Close-Up." Anybody! And still am.
What have been your favourite moments then of your life to look back on in pantomime?
Well, there's so many in Panto. I mean, I'll have to look at the stories because there's so many. I think, well, I don't know how I got into doing a tour in Panto. Somebody just asked me, and my friend said, "Yeah, sure, do it." Oh, I think one was when we went, it was a club called Newfoundport WMC. Normally we had a lot of adults, but this was all screaming kids. And it was one of those clubs where the stage isn't a stage, it's like a curtain rail, Well, that's reminded me of another story. And anyway, we're all sat in the dressing room. All these kids are running about screaming, shouting, crying. And this woman got up and she went, "Right, you lot, sit down. You're going to behave, and no throwing bottles at the actors."
And did you get the kids' attention?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, I taught kids for years, dancing. And the thing is, I always found it was easier if you thought of them as adults and not, "Oh, come on, children." I never did that, "Come on, ladies and gentlemen, on the bus, that meant get in the line, "Who's missed the bus? Get in the line," A little boy, another little boy I had, he went to a very expensive school, and he said to me, "Deirdre," he said, "my teacher said, get in the line." And I said to her, "Don't you mean get on the bus?" Well, when I was doing it, I just remember one story that I always think is quite typical of working in clubland. It was a Sunday night. I hated Sunday nights, working in clubs in Sunday nights. They're always miserable clubs. And it was in Top Valley in Nottingham. And this club was like a bungalow looking down on the valley. It was all in darkness, and you had to be there at 7, 7:30, no lights, nothing. My husband said, "I'll go and look through the door." And he went, "Oh dear," he said, "they've got a poster up, and it says Des Quemby, guitar vocalist. Not D. Quemby, comic, you know. I thought, oh, God, you know. Anyway, about another half an hour later, this little man comes shuffling round the side with a flat cap on and, you know, typical. This is a long while ago. And he let us in, and he said, and my husband said, oh, there's been a mistake on the poster. And he said, my wife's a comic. He said, well, you'll have to see chairman. So we went in this room, and there's a massive billiard table in front of this tiny little pelmet that she staged. And I said, where's the dressing room? He said, there. And it was like a shower cubicle at the end with just, you know, the old horrible shower curtains. And my husband set the equipment up at the side, and these two old ladies sat with him who were very nice. And then people started coming in, started playing on the billiard table. I thought, oh, God, that's got to go. and they moved it. Anyway, the chairman turned up. My husband said, there's been a mistake on the post. My wife's a comic. Oh, a comic? We don't have comics here on a Sunday. He said, whoa, it's too late now to do anything about it. By then, the billiard table's gone. The local football team's come in. Everybody's come in. It's absolutely packed. And I'm sat in this shower cubicle at the side of the stage. And this is what he said. I'll never forget. The chairman walked out and said, right, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, we always have a guitar vocalist every Sunday night. However, tonight we have a young lady doing comedy, and I sincerely hope it's not going to spoil anybody's night. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Do you know what? I had a brilliant night. And the two old ladies said to my husband, she's getting fed up with them guitar vocalists. And then there was another one. Right, I did compare ladies' nights, but I always made sure they were very classy. I did put my own on, and I picked all the people, and we absolutely packed out places. I had to hand out lists of where we were going because people wanted to follow us, and they were really good fun. And we went to this club, another really run-down club. And I mean, in Leicester, at that time, we didn't have where you had to buzz yourself in, you know, and a chairman let you in. But anyway, I'd done this ladies' night, great night. My husband said, I'll load the car up. You go round the front, stand in the foyer, and I'll come round and pick you up. Anyway, I'm stood in the foyer. There's the little bloke in his little hut thing, you know. And this woman, she's banging on the door like mad. Banging on the door, and he presses the button, in she comes, and she's jangling her keys, and she went, I've got one stuck at my front and one stuck at my rear. And without looking up, he said, she's looking at bingo and all. Priceless. You never forget those nights.
Have you always worked clean then?
I like the carry-on style.
Innuendo? Yeah.
I never swore, only once. When I was so fed up with the audience, it was a club I'd done regularly, but it was, I don't know, it was firms do. And the poor girl singer had come off in tears because what they were shouting at her. There was a girl with the band, and she was all upset. And I went out, and they were started on me, and I said, don't start on me, you know, and I really told them, and the women went, yeah, you tell them. You know? I said, you can F off in the bar if you don't want to stop on, you know. But that really annoyed me because that girl singer was so upset, and the other singer was so upset. I thought, I'm not having that. I've sat here all this while. You know, you'll listen.
Has it taken you all over the world then?
No. I never wanted to do that. I mean, I just like working in my own country. I don't think the humour's the same anywhere else. No.
Have you found there to be differences in different areas, what people find funny?
No, I don't think I did really. The thing was with me, I don't think anybody could place my accent. I remember the stage saying, whatever accent she's created for herself suits her perfectly. And I think my accent changed because I did work. A lot of people think I'm northern and I'm not. You know, that was another thing. I went to awards night in London because I've got friends in theatre, and I'm sat there with my friend, and she worked in the theatre, and she said, I know everybody here. She was pointing people out, you know, and the lights went down, And there were 2 seats at the end of the aisle next to me. And this man slid into them in the dark. And we got talking away because things happen at awards nights, the stop things, start things, And he just said to me, he said, "Are you from Manchester?" I said, No, I'm from Leicester. Oh, he said, "I'm from Manchester. I'm convinced you were from there." And then I was saying, he said to me, "Are you in the business?" I said, "Yeah, I'm an older actress, and you know what it's like. Nobody gives you any work, this, that, and the other." I said, "Are you up for an award?" He said, "Oh no." I said, "Are you in the business?" He said, "Oh yes, I'm up for an award tonight." I said, "Oh, what's that?" He said, "Best director." I said, "Oh, best of luck, love." And then they went, "And the best director award goes to Danny Boyle for Frankenstein."
Goodness.
And off he went.
Me.
And I thought, if he thinks I've got a Manchester accent, I'm putting that down on my CV.
Going back to Panto then, when you were principal boy.
No, it wasn't principal boy.
When you were not principal.
Principal girl once.
Principal girl once. When you were a comic.
Yeah.
Did you ever do the song sheets?
Oh, always.
And
Tiddly-winky.
And how did you find them?
There's a worm at the bottom of the garden. Well, you just knew them from your own childhood. There was songs that, I sing them to my godson. He loves the Wiggly Woo one. And you see, I'm a dancing teacher. I still teach tap. I still tap dance. But I was never your sort of... I always wanted to be friends with the kids who I was teaching. And I wanted to make it fun, And I don't know. I didn't have set music. I used to use George Formby. And one dad said, "I've had to go out and buy a George Formby CD because my kid likes cleaning windows and Mr. Woo." And I said, "Well, the kids loved it. And Run Rabbit Run, they loved that. I used to use all that. And I want a hippopotamus for Christmas. They loved that one." Whereas people would use a pianist into all the classical music, I like the fun stuff. I think if you can make it fun for people, they'll do it. They'll keep on doing it, even if they lose interest. If it's fun, it's fun.
And do you go and see many pantos now?
Well, yes, because I've got a friend who has appeared in a lot of pantos. We go to see him every year. And I go to see Paul when he's in the Palladium, Paul O'Grady. Love the Palladium pantos. I mean, near the knuckle is Julian Clare and Paul, yeah. And I mean, that was Panto. I mean, the Panto dame was always a bit rude, wasn't she? And a bit, coarse. They always were. And that's what... it goes over the kids' heads, really. But, I do like Panto. I've been to see some and I've been quite disappointed. They've had a big name in who's, like out of a group or off reality TV. And they just... the one I saw, I won't say where, it walked out, Snow White was dead on the floor, he stepped over her. I just couldn't stop laughing. I thought, no. And they cut down and they cut a lot of the story out. They cut a lot of the characters out. And it's pop song after pop song after pop song. No, I like the traditional pantos. And I do like the Palladium panto. Of course, we had to miss it this year, And
there's nothing like a good line-up. Doing a good dance as well, is there?
Oh, you need your good dancers, don't you? Yeah, that all makes it. But they cut everything down these days. And of course, if a panto was performing in a city, they'd usually, years ago when I was little, they'd find a local dance school and say, "Can we have some of you babes to appear?" Because they knew they'd get the parents in, and all the grannies would go, "Oh, look at the little babes," You don't get that so much now. They always used to do that. Yeah. Times have changed. Not for the better, really, but...
I saw a lovely routine a while ago where they were all sitting down on the edge of the stage.
Yeah.
Their legs dangling over, and they were doing this...
Oh, the clap routine.
Yeah. And with the legs. And
I've done that, yeah. I've taught that.
Phenomenal. But how on earth, as somebody with 2 left feet, how on earth do you teach people to do this?
Well, it's from a Broadway musical based on the old cowboy Will Hay, is it? And that's where that comes from. And Michael Barrymore did it. And I liked it. And I'd got some girls and, dancing school, you get all different standards. I just made it a bit simpler. But we did it. And they said, we'll never do this, but they did do it. But not the full routine. I mean, I think you need people who know what they're doing to do the full routine. Is it Our Glorious Son, the musical? Or that's the music it is?
Oh, I don't know.
All that.
I'd love to be able to.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal when you see it, and it's done well.
It's so clever. And then they all lean, yeah. And they all cross, yeah. It is. It's a brilliant routine.
Any routines you didn't like doing?
Well, I did ballet. And I like to watch ballet, but I don't like to do it. I did teach it basic ballet for the little ones, but I never... That's why I like tap, because you can have happy, great happy music and all the old Judy Garland, Get Happy, that was one we used a lot. And everybody loves tap. I mean, I go to Kilworth House a lot, and when they've had a tap musical on, there'll be people coming out saying, I wish I'd learnt to tap dance. I'll say, come to me, I teach you daughter, Yeah, I love tap dancing, and I think most people do. I think people are fascinated with it. I've even had children, and the mothers have said, they've got the tap shoes, and one little girl kissed both of them, took them to bed. And kids would say to me, do we have to do a ballet dance? Can't we do 2 tap dances?
How do you keep yourself fit and healthy then?
I'm very aware of what I eat. I still teach tap dancing. As I say, I started boxing and jiu-jitsu. I'm hoping to go back if we can do contact sport after the 19th. I do some exercises. I try and walk a lot, as much as I can. That's it really. I mean, I don't go over the top like some people do. I mean, I've seen some poor people jogging out here and they look like they're going to pass out any minute. I couldn't do that. I couldn't jog to save my life. I tried it once. I got to the end of the street, all bored, I came home. I can walk around because I talk to everybody with a dog and people wave, and that's all right. And I can walk forever if I'm in London, past shops. But if I set out just to do like jogging, I'm so fed up with it, I can't be bothered.
What's been your career highlight then?
I think a few. I mean, to get an opportunity knocks was amazing because they were turning professional comics down. I'd never actually stood up and done comedy in a club or anything. I'd only done it in the pantomime. So to get onto that was amazing. And then to get the comedians, I mean, wow. And only Pauline Daniels had been on before. I think Sue Pollard got turned down for that, and I love Sue Pollard. So to do that was another career. And to get Emmerdale, I mean, I never expected to get that, ever. I just sent my CV up 6 weeks before, and they rang up and said, can you come? I said, well, I don't do extra work anymore. Oh, it's not extra work, she said, it's for a part. I'm like, And last of the summer wine, that was funny how I got that. I mean, I went to Pinewood. I'm a member of the British Comedy Society, and it was a tribute to Last of the Summer Wine. And they were all lovely. I'd met Jean Ferguson before. And I got asked to sell raffle tickets, and I just went up to the top table, and a very nice man there, and he said, I've already got my raffle tickets. I said, but not from me. He said, oh, here you go then. He said, who are you? I said, I'm an out-of-work actor. He said, send me your CV, and that was at Alan J.W. Bell.
Oh,
so I didn't even audition.
Top boss, yeah.
He rang up, and I thought it was a weird call. And I was going, yes, hello. I met you a while ago. Oh, did you? And he said, oh, it's Alan J. Would you like to do it? Oh, yes, thank you, Mr. Yeah.
Things have changed so much, though, now, haven't they? You've got to feel sorry for the upcomers, even some of the older actors as well, who are up against it now.
Yeah, I think it's all, to me, it's very clinical, You go to uni, you study for 3 years. Why don't you just go on? The old rep companies were the best, where you went and you were painting scenery, making tea, and then you had a couple of lines. And I mean, that's how Michael Caine learnt. To do it on your feet, actually do it with a company. I would have loved to have done that, to have learnt that way. But they don't do that anymore, do they? So there was a was it one of the Manchester theatres saying they were going to start like a repertory company, have their own pool of actors? You know, I don't know. I mean, there's so many people trying to do it. It's just awful, really. I mean, you know, for a dancing job in London, they'll get 600 turn up for one role. 600, you know. It's just crazy, isn't it? I mean, most people I know who went have come back and they're doing other jobs. And one girl who went, who was one of mine, she said nobody in her year got anything, nothing. You know, and you spent all that money and it doesn't guarantee you anything, nothing, does it? Because there's a lot of this street casting now, where they just go out and see somebody in the street and put you in an advert and things like that, you know. And of course, when you go for an audition, they rarely say, where did you train? You know, they just say, what have you been doing? And, you know, I mean, during lockdown, I thought, I can't be bothered to dye my hair. I just can't be bothered. I hate doing it anyway. And since I've let it go this colour, I think I've had more interest, really. Because I want you to look old if you're old.
I'm not going to say a word because of your jiu-jitsu training.
No. No, people say to me, oh, I love your hair, it makes you look younger. I say, oh, it makes me look younger. What are you talking about? But, you know, I've done a film. I've done an advert. I've got 2 short films lined up, a couple of feature films. So, yeah, hopefully. I mean, you're never going to get the big stuff, you know, with A-listers and that. There's no chance of that. Because they'll always go to Judi Dench's and people like that. You know, they have their own little... You know, you're never going to get those chances, but at least I'm doing something.
But you never know who's listening either. You don't.
They'll say, who's that awful woman with that Manchester accent and she's not from there?
Oh, of course, all the big producers listen. Yes.
Oh, Danny Boyle, don't listen. Oh, I thought, God, I got my cards in my bag as well. Why didn't you just ask him who it was?
Goodness me. But again, you never know who's listening, who you bump into, who you're talking to. This is the thing. And even now.
Well, you sell raffle tickets too. Well, that reminds me, Harry Hill owes me £1 and Jack D.
Do you think they can afford it?
Well, it was when we were at another thing for Barry Cryer, and they were coming around, they were doing like this stupid Irish bingo where you all put £1 in and you all have to stand up and sit down when they call your numbers, and they were going like this. I said, do you want £1? I haven't got any money on.
Well, this leads me on to my last question.
Okay.
Your dream pantomime. So you can be in it, you can be in the stalls watching it, you choose the production, you choose the theatre, and your cast could be a mix of alive or dead people.
Well, Dick Whittington was always my favourite panto. I just like it. I think, you know, the sailor dances and all that and the ship. But I think if a dream panto, I would love to do Cinderella with me and Paul O'Grady as the ugly sisters. I'd come up to his knees, but I think that would be fabulous. I would love to do that. I think he is amazing, and he's so nice and tall. I'm only 5 foot, so that would be. The audience, how do you mean alive or dead?
The cast, alive or dead. So you.
The cast, right?
The cast.
Okay.
No, we don't want a dead audience.
No,
I'm
that's
sure
what I was
you've had a couple of them over the
thinking.
years.
Yeah, we've had a few of them. Yeah. I remember doing one Northern club, and the women were going like this to the men. Don't laugh at her. Elbowing the men. Right. Well, you see, I love Captain Mannering. I think he was amazing. I'd love to have done something with him. I think he was a great actor. Arthur, yeah. I think... Oh, you always think of him as Captain Mannering, don't you? Even though you've watched him in Coronation Street and watched him in a film. And isn't he at the end of... I can't remember what it's called, one of the Ealing comedies. He turns up at the prison, he walks up and it's off. I think it's him.
And he was in The Plank as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
The second.
I would look... He'd make a great Baron Harder, wouldn't he?
Oh. Yeah.
Wouldn't he? But if not him, James Cagney, because I could tap dance with him.
Of course. Any excuse.
Yeah, and I think Betty Davis as the fairy, Right.
Very Hollywood.
Oh, well, then what, you know, people have some favourite actresses. And I always say James Cagney and Betty Davis. And then, of course, I like, who was there? Oh, Marjorie Main. I like Marjorie Main. I think she was amazing. I love Marjorie Main. I mean, she was such a strong woman, well, you know. Ma and Pa Kettle used to love that. So that was good, because she was this big Bolshevik woman. He was this little tiny bloke who just sat there mending things. You see, I mean, that happens in life, doesn't it? At the moment, people say, who do you like these days? And people haven't heard of it, because I like the French actress Audrey Fleurot. I think she's amazing. Audrey Fleurot. Spiral, do you ever watch Spiral? The French police drama that's very popular. No, Audrey Fleurot is amazing, and she can dance as well. She did come over and do a play in the West End, but I couldn't get down. I don't really know these days. They don't, I mean, and then because like Morecambe and Wise, Morecambe and Wise as the bailiff's men, you know, would be fabulous, wouldn't they? You see, they've all gone really, the ones I like.
Who'd be your Cinders?
Oh, Cinderella, I don't know. I've no idea. I always think Cinderella should be blonde. I know that, I don't know why, but Cinderella was always blonde in my books, you know. Who could be Cinders? I suppose Petula Clark could have done it when she was young, or Julie Andrews, you know, with a wig. You need somebody who's a good singer for Cinders, don't you? I suppose probably, well, Lily James has played Cinderella. Well, she's playing everything at the minute. She's in everything. I don't know really, because I always like the older actors rather than the younger ones. You know, not sure. Who would you pick for Cinders?
Mine would always be Dinah Dawes.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Don't you think she'd be a bit too much for Cinders?
She'd be bolshy though.
Oh, I love Dinah Dawes. Oh,
that's who I did my listeners. If you want to check out my old,
yeah, I met her once and she was fabulous. Loved her.
I have put
Hannah Blackman.
Yes. Oh yes, she's good.
She could be Cindy.
This was my dream panto at the Palladium.
Yeah.
That I always wanted to see.
Yeah.
And it was Dinah Dawes as
Oh.
Cinders. Somebody
Was
mocked
she
it up for me.
Cinderella?
No,
Oh,
this
no,
is
this-
just a mock-up of...
Did she ever do Panto?
A guy called Lorenzo did this
Yeah.
for me, and it's
But
on my
did she-
social media if anybody wants to
Yeah.
check it out. You've got... I wanted Dinah Dawes as Cinders, Norman Wisdom as Buttons,
Yeah, my pudding ones.
Cary Grant
Yeah.
as Prince Charming,
Yeah.
Larry Grayson as Dandini,
Yeah,
and Dora Bryan as the fairy.
yeah,
Fairy godmother. Eddie Izzard for me.
Yeah. I
as
like Eddie Izzard.
Wicky's stepmother.
yeah,
Baron Hardup for me would have been Stanley Unwin.
yeah. He's just had a birthday, isn't he? About 95, is he?
He's no longer with us.
Oh, is he?
Stanley Unwin.
Oh, Stanley Unwin. Sorry, I got the wrong Stanley. Yeah.
Stanley, yeah, he's the one who got all his words.
Yeah.
Gobbledygook.
Yeah, gobbledygook. Sorry.
And then, do you remember a pair of chefs called Hudson and Halls?
No, don't remember them.
New Zealand chefs, Campers Christmas.
No, don't remember them.
And they'd be playing the Ugly Sisters. That was mine. So
Yeah.
you need to choose your Prince. We'll go Prince Charming next.
Yeah.
You can't pinch mine.
No. Well, I mean, and I say traditional pantomime. It wasn't traditional for a woman to play dame, but I do like to see a man as Prince Charming. I really do. Probably the one out of Bridgerton. I can't remember his name. Rennie. What's it? Rennie St James, is it?
I've never seen it.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I'm not really with it.
Do you want me to go for another one then?
No, you go for it. That's fine. It's your dream.
Yeah, okay. I think he'd make a good Prince Charming. Cinderella. Oh, I don't really know. I'm not into the younger actresses these days, but I suppose. Well, if I say Lily James, she has played Cinderella on screen, and she'd probably make a nice Cinderella. So Ugly Sisters, me and Paul O'Grady.
What about your Dandini?
Dandini, I think that needs to be a man as well. Oh dear, I'm trying to think. You've really got me over a barrel here. I can't think. Dandini. I don't even know what day is it. Is it Sunday?
It's a Sunday.
Oh right. To look at the paper at the minute.
I wouldn't believe anything in the papers at the moment.
No. Oh, Matt Hancock then. No.
Oh, could you imagine?
Yes.
Matt Hancock as...
Yeah, Hancock's off.
The
No.
Randy Dandini.
Oh
there
my
we go.
God. Oh God, how embarrassing was that? It
So
was...
what, we'll go for your buttons then.
Well, yeah.
How's that? We'll skip Dandini.
Okay, I say Alan Carr. I like Alan Carr.
Alan Carr. Oh.
Yeah. Oh, let's have Tom Hardy as Dandini.
Tom Hardy as Dan, but all the women would be after Dandini.
Yeah, but then
not...
you get everybody in, wouldn't you?
That's true. And
I have seen pantomimes where Dandini's been much better than the Prince. Yeah, I like Tom Hardy. I did say the other day I'd like to play his grandma.
And then your buttons would be Alan Carr.
Yeah, I like Alan Carr. I'd love to meet Alan Carr. I wonder if it wants adopting.
Alan, if you're listening.
Yeah, I think he's lovely. He really made such an impression that night at the Dumont, and it was years ago, when alternative comedy, everybody was going, oh, it's one of them, He was fabulous. I loved him, yeah.
Well, Dee, thank you so much for spending time talking to the Panto Pod.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for your interest.